guys, welcome back to Strong Successful Male. So for today, I'm going to go over a story titled, My Best Friend, a 42-year-old female, told my husband, a 44-year-old male, that I cheated and he's leaving. And guys, this story is written from the woman's perspective, and she's looking for the biggest pity party on the face of the earth because, lo and behold, her husband found out that she had cheated on him like 20 years earlier before they were married. They'd been dating for 5 years. So they were a serious commitment, but she went through the wild phase in college and she just couldn't resist clubbing and fooling around with different dudes. And 20 years later, he finds out. Now, here's the deal. Her so-called best friend tells her husband this while she was drunk. And in my opinion, it was done on purpose because this best friend of hers was probably jealous of the fact that the best friend was single, no husband, no kids, alone. And this woman was, at the time, it appeared to be happily married with 4 kids. So what I tell you all the time is about paying attention to who your girl hangs out with. But it's also the same best friend, guys, that in college, this woman who's telling the story, excuse me, guys, went out partying with and clubbing with, and she was hooking up with other dudes, and she's essentially blaming her friend because back in the day, her friend obviously persuaded her to go out and party and hook up with other dudes and all that, and now the same friend is sabotaging her marriage. It's crazy. This is like a little soap opera thing. And now the husband doesn't want anything to do with her. And you're going to see ultimately where this goes and what the husband does. So I'm going to get right into it, guys, but again, lesson here doesn't make the difference who it's from, man or woman. Pay attention. It's all about pay attention to who your girl hangs out with for your relationship, guys. And of course, remember about friends. You have certain friends that are obviously trouble. It's not worth your time. So it starts off. She says, I'll go right ahead and say the obvious. I deserve this. I'm the villain. It's all my fault. I know. Okay. She's acknowledging this, but also this part of me is thinking that she's just doing this anyway just to appear like she's accepting this. She says, but my goodness, I can't handle this. I'm posting here in the hopes that someone has advice on how to win back a betrayed spouse. Well, I'm going to save you a whole lot of time. You're not going to win him back. Back in 2001, yes, 20 years ago, I was young and dumb and did something horrible. I'd been with my husband, or boyfriend at the time, for 5 years at that point. We grew up in the same hometown, part of the same friend group as kids, and fell in love in high school. We've been together ever since. After college, however, I got into my head that my relationship was holding me down and stifling my self-expression. Translation, I want to go out and be wild and party and get a lot of attention from guys and ride the carousel. My best friend Julia agreed with this sentiment. Of course she did. Because Julia is no doubt single too and doesn't have a guy she's been with for 5 years. Together we'd go out clubbing, leaving our boyfriends at home. We wouldn't do anything bad, but still, it was still a thrill to know that other guys were looking at us. Attention and validation. Well, as they say, never play with fire. The more we partied, the more Julia would want to cheat. Eventually, she started making out with other guys at clubs. And I'm ashamed to say that for a few nights, I did the same. Dancing with guys and kissing them. I put a stop to this after a few such incidents. Yeah, sure. Like, we're going to believe that. Remember, this is the girl that she'd been with the dude for 5 years or more. It sounded like they had a good thing going. This guy obviously was serious with her. And yet she felt that need to go out there, was being held back. It's always the same story, but I was feeling held back. You know, nowadays, a gal seems like they can't be empowered unless they're free to go do as you can imagine. Well, look what this led to. So she cheated on him. Okay, and this was, when I first started the story, guys, I'd forgotten the part that it was her idea initially. I for some reason, I thought it was her friend that pushed her to go in the clubs. It was her idea. She says here, I put a stop to this after a few such incidences. I felt disgusted with myself, with her, with the strangers that I was kissing, and most of all, I felt horrible about cheating on the love of my life. Well, obviously, he wasn't the love of your life if you felt you had to go out there and get a whole bunch of attention from dudes and dance and grind and kiss. And at this point, I don't buy it was just some dude she was kissing. I'm thinking it was more than that, but, you know, and you can't blame me for thinking that. And I'm sure there isn't many guys watching this that isn't thinking it's beyond that. But the point is this, cheating is cheating. And yet, she still marries this guy. And he has no idea. He's at home like, all right, go out, have a good time, babe. Trying to be the good boyfriend. And what does his kindness get him? This. She says, I told her that I couldn't hang out with her anymore if she was going to continue her cheating ways. She understood and she put a stop to it as well. Of course, all my moral indignation didn't give me the courage to actually fess up to what I did, so we kept it our secret. The right thing she should have done is told him. And yeah, she could have risked him walking away forever, which, to be honest, he should have done. But she didn't tell him. She went ahead and let him think everything was okay. And they got married, but the truth will come out. She says, skip to 20 years later. I hence married that boyfriend, and he's my husband now. We have 4 children, 18, 17, 14, and 14. Well, you guys are busy. Over these 20 years, my best friend has practically faded out of the dating pool entirely. Well, no kidding, because she's in her early 40s now, so she's not exactly as appealing as she was 20 years ago. I mean, duh. She has a successful business of her own, inherited from family, and she dedicates her life to running it. Well, she inherited it. She didn't start it. It's easy to inherit a successful business. Just follow the model, and you should be okay. Her social life is essentially hanging out with me or my husband, and sometimes babysitting the kids. So you're letting this woman, this snake, in your house. And mind you guys, her friend here, her so-called friend, is alone, no husband, no kids. And I told you eventually they always want to have the ring on their finger. While she's there with the husband, the kids, happy life. Jealousy can start coming about. And how do people sometimes handle that? By sabotaging things. Well, it turns out that she's gotten so chummy with my husband that one night in February of this year, she had too much to drink and she ended up letting it spill our little cheating incidences back in the day. I guarantee you that was no accident. No way, no how she did that on purpose to sabotage it. That's why. And it's crazy to me that this woman is so idiotic that she's still hanging with this chick all these years later. I mean, she's no saint by any means, but she's still hanging out with her. People don't change. And she obviously has not. She didn't mention that I only did it 4 times, kissing 4 different guys in total. Understandably, she doesn't remember those specifics. She just remembers that she cheated for almost an entire year and remembers I was doing generally the same thing. Generally, you were doing the same thing. You went out there so you could get attention and validation from dudes, and you were fooling around. And nobody here believes it was just kissing, and nobody believes it was just 4 dudes. Because if you're all that intoxicated, then obviously you don't remember a lot of things. To make matters worse, she said that while my oldest son was upstairs, my son heard everything. I was away for the weekend with our 3 other kids, visiting my parents, and my poor husband had to calm my son down while also trying to make sense of what Julie was telling him. Here's a question. Why is he hanging out with her why is her so-called friend hanging out with her husband and having drinks in their house? I don't care if the kid is upstairs. There's a question here. Maybe something's going on with Julie and the husband all along, and now Julie is sabotaging this whole thing. Or maybe Julie, the friend, really likes him, and now she wants to sabotage it so she can get her chance with him. Maybe. He says, I never knew that that night I left would be the last time the love of my life would ever kiss me. Oh, poor you. I came home the next day, and my husband sat me down and asked me point blank if I ever cheated on him. I could tell from the look in his eyes that he knew everything. I admitted that I had. He was so calm that it scared me. I was afraid for his well-being. He's usually so proud and charismatic, and that day he just looked serene, detached from our relationship, detached from me. He told me that he wants a DNA test on all our children, which of course I agreed to because they're his. He's the only man I've ever slept with. Nobody's buying it, honey. And I can blame it all. If I heard that story, I'd want to know too. Now, some people may think, hey, you know what? It was 20, some people may say, okay, it was 20 years ago. And they were only boyfriend, girlfriend. So let it go. No, not at all. Because she said at that point, they've been together for like 5 years. Okay? Anybody's been with somebody for like 5 years, that's a serious commitment. And I'm sure at that point he was thinking about marrying her or proposing. So, he has every right here to be pissed off, and what happens. We waited for the test results for 1 week, and my son wanted nothing to do with me during this time. He's loyal to his dad. You can't blame him. Yes, that didn't happen when you guys were, when they were married, but still. When the results came back, I thought we could finally start on rebuilding our foundation of trust. I had all the energy in the world to put into our marriage and to show my man that I was worth his time and his love. You were worth his time and his love? The day the results came back, he told me he wanted a divorce. You can't blame the guy because he obviously doesn't trust you. He doesn't believe that things weren't going on more than what she was saying or afterwards. We have been separated since March of this year. He has purchased a condo in the downtown area of our city. My oldest 2 kids spent 100% of their time there, while my youngest twins split their time with me and with him. He refuses to go to marital counseling. Our jurisdiction has a 6-month wait before a divorce can be finalized, and that expires in October. So as of October 23rd, I'm a 42-year-old divorcee with 4 kids, 2 of whom hate me, and others see me as the reason their lives were upturned. You make your bed, you lie in it. Okay? Yes, this happened 20 years ago, but still, she never told him. The best thing she could have done in that situation, well, the best thing she could have done was never do what she did, but it is what it is. However, what she should have done back then was told the guy. But she knew darn well, probably in the back of her mind, that if she told him the truth, that she'd be toast. So you can't blame this husband at all, you know? And again, this so-called friend of hers is a piece of garbage. I mean, yes, he deserved to know, but she's a piece of garbage. And I think that this so-called friend of hers, wants the husband and is jealous of this woman here because of what she has. Again, pay attention who your girl hangs out with, and particularly for the situation that happened back in the day, the girl she was hanging out with, clubbing with, and all that. And also, this is a lesson about people, about envy and jealousy, and what people, even friends or family, might do to sabotage something you have good because they're jealous. Human nature, it can be very, very ugly. She says, I cut Julie out of my life. I know this wasn't her fault. What do you mean it's not her fault? Are you a moron? It is your fault, of course, because you did this, but still, your so-called friend told your husband this. I know I was the one who chose to lie, and I deserve the consequences, but I still associate my life's total ruin to her. I blame her even though it doesn't make sense. Well, some parts of it make sense. That's the only thing I'm going to give this lady here. Her friend's an asshole. Yes, the guy deserved to know, but still, the way she did it. And she's obviously jealous and envious of her. And just last weekend, one of my youngest kids mentioned that Julie had been sleeping over at my husband's condo. Ah, imagine that. Whoever would have saw that coming? I'm incensed with jealousy and hatred for her, and anguish at this whole situation. I need to win him back. You're not going to. This isn't how our lives are supposed to end. We've worked so damn hard to build our home, and he can't share it with her while I rot out here in the cold. Even the thought of calling him my ex makes me want to shrivel up and disappear. So that is the end of the first part. We're going to go into an update in a moment. But again, how interesting that it ended with her. Guess what? The so-called friend is now at the house with hubby. Probably, I'm willing to bet you she just started cozying up to him. And probably he's thinking, you know what? I want to get back at her for lying to me and cheating on me those different times. Because again, in his mind, he doesn't know what she was doing. If she was doing more than what she was saying and what was going on during the marriage. So he's like, okay, I'm going to get some payback. I'm going to nail your friend. Which, quite honestly, I wouldn't come near this one I wouldn't touch her with a 100-meter pole. So the update. She says, well, I did something I never thought I'd do. I unblocked Julia and reached out to her. We set up a time to meet for coffee at my mom's house when the place would be empty. We spoke for hours, though I can't say it was like old times. I found myself stuck with a tenseness in my stomach. I realized I still hate her for what she did. I'll never be able to let loose with her like I once did, and that's a reality I have to accept. Lady, your whole letting loose thing has got you this trouble to begin with. Focusing on the word loose. Anyway, reiterate the facts as she had told them to me. Now, this is going to go over a conversation she had with her so-called friend. What were her intentions in telling my husband about my cheating? Like you're going to get a straight answer, or an honest one. Apparently her friend says it was a purely drunken mistake. Sure. With no rhyme or reason behind it. She doesn't even remember it happening. She just remembers my oldest son being very short with her the next morning and my husband later explaining what she had said. How did she behave with my husband after the revelation? My husband cut her off a day or so after I did. He did this because a few days after the incident, via text, he tried to convince him that she was drunk and confused. I'm so sorry, I was drunk and confused. No. But this happened after he had confronted me, so he knew it was the truth that she had spilled. He wanted space from her because he associated her to all my lies. Well, remember, this is the woman that back 20 years ago was out riding the carousel cheating on her boyfriend and out there with this girl as well. and obviously no doubt encouraging a lot of this. But remember how this all started, because this woman telling the story here wanted to be free and felt like she was being held back and blah, 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 blah. How did she get back in touch with him after he blocked her? He didn't block her. He just told her not to contact him again. She promised to keep her distance from him and the kids. 3 months later, she reached out to him again because she was getting help with her alcohol abuse and wanted to apologize for all the harm she did. After the conversation, they kept in touch. She did that on purpose. Guaranteed. Why is she spending nights at his place? That's what we're all wondering here. Well, listen to this bullshit. Apparently, she's been finding it hard to stay at home alone during winter because of her old drinking habits and wanted some company. And this guy's just buying into this. She sleeps in the guest bedroom, and obviously they don't drink together or anything. She apologized for the confusion it caused my twin daughters. So it's like a chessboard for her, and she's moving her pieces closer and closer to get this guy. Because now she's sleeping over in the house. What do you think is going to happen after a while when this guy is in obviously an emotional state? His emotions are a roller coaster because his 20-year marriage is over, and he doesn't know who she was, that the woman he married. She'll just swoop in a moment of weakness. Says, I allowed myself to feel hopeful here. They're not together. This wasn't some grand conspiracy for her to steal him away. I still have a chance. Well, that's what you think. But I had to make sure. Now listen to this. Did she ever sleep with him? Here we go. Yes. After the divorce was finalized, they hooked up a few times to let off some steam. There you go. I think she wanted him all along. That's what this whole thing was about. Or this is his payback on her, the wife, for what she did, nailing her old friend. And this so-called friend's her payback for the wife cutting her off after all this. What a mess. She insisted I shouldn't worry because I never tried to pursue a relationship. Oh, okay, never mind. Yeah, you F my husband multiple times in the house where my kids are, but that's okay, because you're not going to pursue a relationship. Thanks. There's way too much resentment and baggage for it to work. And she doesn't think that she's his type. You mean W-H-O-R-E? There it is. I cried when she admitted this. She cried and apologized. I must have told her that I hated her 1,000 times. I really do hate her. I hate her more than I thought was possible. She knows how much I love him. She knows how much I need him. And yet she still manages to knock things over and out of place no matter how it hurts me. I told her to get out after that. I have blocked her again. She wants to be back in my life, but there's no chance in hell I ever want to lay my eyes on her if she's sleeping with a man I love. I know some women can swallow their pride and do it, but I can't. Well, no kidding. Now I'd watch out for her that she doesn't try to hook up with one of your sons. That's what's coming next. So that's where I'm at. At least they're not in love or running off to get married. I tell myself that he's just using her to try to fill a hole in his heart. Well, he's filling a hole, all right, and probably 2, if not 3 of them. I tell myself that letting off steam is not how anyone would describe meaningful sex. It's a physical reaction to stress and circumstance. But then I remember what she said about her not being his type. I wish I asked if she's dating now, or if he had his eyes on someone else. Well, it's not your business at this point. You guys are divorced or split up. She says here, I wish I wrote down notes on what I wanted to learn and express instead of just going in unprepared. My emotions just got the best of me, and now I'm here weeping again until my body hurts from exhaustion. This hasn't helped my obsession with the prospect of him moving on. All this meeting has done is humble me at the thought of him and her making love. I don't think they were love making. I think it was pure raw effing. I can't let this go on. I need him getting back before he falls in love with someone else. Given the new information I've learned, does anyone have any advice on what to do? Yes, here's my advice. It's over. End of story. And if you even want to have the slightest chance of maybe getting this dude back, I'm talking the slightest chance, you back away. End of story. I honestly, I sleep much last time, so I'm kind of tired. So I can't remember if she said that they are divorced or they're about to get divorced. But whatever it is, the best thing a woman could do in a situation like this that she's screwed up, aside from the fact that she just accepts it's over and moves on and let him have peace, is to give him the easiest, most smoothest divorce possible. That's one of the first things you can do to show that you're sorry and so forth like that. Maybe write him a letter just saying, I'm so sorry, get it in writing, that I wish you the best, I'll leave you alone, something like that. And then, but the most important thing, in my opinion here, is she needs to rebuild relationship with her children. that comes first before this dude. Okay, those are her kids. It sounds like she's cool with 2 of them, but the other 2 aren't talking to her. That's the number one priority. Fix the situation with the kids. And if you can do that, then okay, move on with your life. And if one day you guys start talking again and rekindle things, okay. But don't expect him to go trusting you anytime soon. But I want to hold on to that hope. This guy's every right. I mean, again, it happened 20 years ago, but the point is they were together for 5 years. And 5 years is a long freaking time. Okay, I don't care what anybody says. You know? I mean, if people live together 5 years in some places, that's considered to be a marriage, if I'm not mistaken. So, you make your bed, you lie in it. But again, the story goes to show about how it's important, guys, to watch out who your girl hangs out with, and how even the best, maybe think you're in the best relationship, but then some of them think that they need to go through that wild phase, or they're being held back. Those were her words in the beginning of the story, if you recall. She felt like she was being held back. Held back from what? Going out and clubbing and just getting attention from dudes. I told you about the attention and validation. It's like a drug. And look what happened. The best thing she could have done was, after what happened, admitted what she did. And flip a coin. Either he would have stayed with her, gave her another chance, which I wouldn't advise that he would have done, or he walked away and she'd move on. But all she can do now is just simply try to rekindle things with her kids and move on and learn a lesson, and that's that. But just hanging on to it and just keep bugging him and everything, not a good idea. Let this guy move on, live his life. So, all right, guys, that is it for today. Be sure to comment down below. Let me know what you think about this, and be sure to like the video, share with your friends, and subscribe. And I'll catch you next time.